Michael Preston stared at the official documentation on his tablet one last time, fighting the urge to triple-check every detail. The cultural exchange program's requirements glowed back at him. Temperature controls set to precisely 72 degrees Fahrenheit, air purification systems running at maximum efficiency, and organic food supplies stocked according to the exotic dietary specifications. The doorbell chimed, its sound cutting through his mental checklist. Michael's heart rate spiked. This was it, his first extraterrestrial house guest. He opened the door to find two figures standing on his porch. The first was a stern-looking human official in a crisp black suit, but it was the second figure that caught his attention. A tall, slender woman with violet skin that seemed to shimmer in the morning sunlight. Her rose-colored hair cascaded down her shoulders in what looked like living tendrils, each strand moving slightly of its own accord. "Mr. Preston?" The official extended his hand. "I'm Agent Thompson. This is Zara Cathax from the Lyrian Confederation." Zara's eyes, entirely golden with no visible pupils, crinkled at the corners as she smiled. "Earth's atmosphere feels so heavy," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly melodic quality. "Like swimming through honey, if I understand the Earth substance correctly." Michael found himself returning her smile despite his nervousness. "Please come in. I've prepared everything according to specifications." "Very well," Agent Thompson said, stepping inside. "Let's verify the living conditions before we complete the handover." As Thompson moved through the house with his scanning equipment, Zara wandered the living room, trailing her fingers along the furniture. Her skin left brief, phosphorescent trails wherever she touched. "Your dwelling has such rigid angles," she observed. "On Lyria, our structures flow like water." She paused, tilting her head. "Though I suppose I shouldn't mention water. My superiors were quite insistent about avoiding Earth's hydration systems." "Right, the briefing mentioned something about that," Michael said, watching as she examined a family photo. "Water affects your species' biology?" Zara's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. "Oh, they love to be dramatic about it. It's not dangerous, just—" She searched for the word, "overwhelming." "Everything appears to be in order," Thompson interrupted, returning to the foyer. "Ms. Cathax, please remember the protocols we discussed. Mr. Preston, you have the emergency contact information?" Michael nodded, perhaps too eagerly. "Yes, sir. Everything's stored and backed up." After Thompson left, an awkward silence fell between them. Zara stood in the middle of the room, her golden eyes taking in every detail, while Michael tried not to stare at the way her skin seemed to pulse with subtle patterns of light. "So," he ventured, "would you like to see your room?" "Actually," Zara said, moving to the window, "I'm more interested in these suburbs I've read about. Such a fascinating concept. Hundreds of individual dwellings, each with their own designated plant life. On Lyria, we share everything." She pressed her face against the glass, her hair tendrils writhing with excitement. "Would you show me?" Michael checked his watch. The orientation schedule suggested letting visitors rest after their journey, but Zara's enthusiasm was infectious. "I suppose a quick tour couldn't hurt." As they stepped outside, Zara's reaction to the neighborhood made Michael see it through new eyes. She marveled at the perfectly trimmed hedges. "You shape your plants into geometric forms. The various lawn ornaments, artificial fauna for decoration, brilliant. And the different architectural styles. Each dwelling has its own unique appearance. Your species values individuality so much," she said as they walked. "It's reflected in everything you build." "I never thought about it that way," Michael admitted. "I guess we do tend to put our personal stamp on things." They rounded the corner of the house and Zara stopped abruptly. Her golden eyes widened and her skin rippled with patterns of light. "What is that?" she whispered, pointing to his backyard. Michael followed her gaze to his swimming pool, its surface gleaming in the afternoon sun. "That's just a pool for swimming and a recreational water repository." Zara clapped her hands together, her excitement palpable. "I've read about these. You humans immerse yourselves in water for pleasure?" "Well, yes, but given what Agent Thompson said about water," Zara waved dismissively. "Oh, those warnings. They treat us like we're made of sugar. Come on, Michael Preston. Surely you're not as cautious as all the reports say humans are? Michael shifted uncomfortably. The reports say we're cautious? Oh, yes. Zara's hair tendrils curled with amusement. The briefings described humans as excessively risk-averse and pathologically fixated on safety protocols. But you're not like that, are you? She stepped closer, her golden eyes twinkling. You seem different. I follow protocols for a reason, Michael said, trying to maintain his professional demeanor despite the way her proximity made his pulse quicken. If water affects your biology, then wouldn't it be valuable cultural exchange to understand exactly how? Zara countered, her skin rippling with patterns that seemed almost challenging. Isn't that the point of this program? Michael ran a hand through his hair, feeling trapped between responsibility and not wanting to appear overly rigid. What exactly did your superiors say about water? Zara's expression turned mischievous. They said it could trigger certain biological responses, but they say that about everything. She walked to the pool's edge, her movements graceful and deliberate. On my world, we have nothing like this. Our waters are sacred, sealed away in temple complexes. She turned back to him, her rose-colored hair catching the sunlight. Don't you want to know what happens? That sounds exactly like the kind of thing we should avoid, Michael protested, but his resolve was weakening under her eager gaze. Where's your sense of adventure? Zara teased, dipping her toe near the water's surface but not quite touching it. I thought humans were explorers. Isn't that how you reach the stars? Michael watched her testing the boundary between safety and curiosity, reminded of a cat approaching water. If anything happens, then you'll be right here, Zara finished. She stepped back from the pool and fixed him with those mesmerizing golden eyes. Unless you're scared. I'm not scared, Michael said automatically, then caught himself. I'm responsible for your safety. And I'm responsible for my choices, Zara countered. She began pulling off her outer robe, revealing a shimming bodysuit underneath that seemed to move with her skin. Besides, don't you want to be the first human to document how a Lyrian reacts to recreational water exposure? Michael's scientific curiosity warred with his caution. You're sure it's not dangerous? Positive, Zara said, though something in her tone suggested she wasn't telling him everything. The worst that could happen is... She paused, then grinned. Well, I suppose we'll find out. Before Michael could protest further, Zara stepped to the pool's edge. She looked back at him one last time, her skin pulsing with anticipation, then dove gracefully into the water. Michael held his breath, watching the surface for any sign of distress. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pool began to glow with a soft, pulsing light that seemed to emanate from Zara herself. When she surfaced, her rose-colored hair was plastered to her head, but her golden eyes were bright with excitement. Oh, she gasped, her voice taking on a musical quality he hadn't heard before. Oh, this is... Her skin began to emit stronger patterns of light, turning the pool into a liquid light show. Are you all right? Michael asked, stepping closer to the edge. Zara's laugh echoed across the water, somehow both musical and slightly wild. I'm wonderful. She moved through the water with impossible grace, leaving trails of bioluminescence in her wake. Join me, Michael. The water feels like... She shivered with apparent delight. I don't have words in your language for this sensation. That's when Michael noticed the subtle change in the air, a sweet, intoxicating scent he couldn't quite place. His head felt slightly fuzzy, and he found himself moving closer to the pool's edge, despite his better judgment. Maybe you should come out now, he suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. Zara swam to the edge nearest him, her violet skin now covered in swirling patterns of light that seemed to move in time with her heartbeat. Or maybe, she said, her voice taking on a husky quality that sent shivers down his spine, you should come in. The sweet scent in the air grew stronger as Zara moved closer to the pool's edge. Her golden eyes seemed to glow from within, and droplets of water traced luminescent paths down her violet skin. I really shouldn't, Michael said, but found himself kneeling at the pool's edge anyway. The protocols. Always protocols with you humans, Zara purred, lifting herself slightly out of the water. Her hair tendrils reached toward him of their own accord. Don't you ever just feel? She placed her hand over his where it rested on the pool's edge. Her touch sent a jolt through his system. Her skin was warm, almost hot, and seemed to vibrate with energy. Your biology, Michael managed, trying to maintain his composure despite the intoxicating scent filling his lungs. The water's affecting you. Zara agreed, trailing her fingers up his arm. But not in any way that hurts. It's more like awakening. Everything feels more alive. She moved closer until her face was inches from his. Including you. Michael swallowed hard. Zara, I don't think... That's your problem, she interrupted, her voice taking on that musical quality again. You think too much. With surprising strength, she tugged at his arm. Come swim with me. I'm not dressed for... His protest was cut short as he lost his balance and tumbled into the pool. He surfaced spluttering, fully clothed and thoroughly soaked. Zara's laugh echoed across the water, but it wasn't mocking. It was pure joy, infectious and wild. See, she said, swimming circles around him. Isn't it better to just let go sometimes? The water around them glowed with her bioluminescence, creating an otherworldly atmosphere in the suburban pool. Michael found himself laughing despite his predicament. You're impossible, he said, pushing his wet hair back from his face. Impossible? Zara moved closer, her movements fluid and graceful. Or just what you needed. The patterns of light across her skin seemed to pulse in time with her words. Up close, he could see that her golden eyes had taken on a deeper, molten quality. What I needed was to follow the protocols, Michael said, but there was no real conviction in his voice. The water felt strangely energized, almost electric where their bodies moved through it. What you needed, Zara said, moving even closer, was someone to challenge those protocols. Her hand found his chest, fingers splaying across his soaked shirt. Someone to show you that life isn't about following rules. Michael's breath caught as her touch sent waves of warmth through his body. Is this normal for your species? In water? Zara's smile turned mysterious. Nothing about this is normal. Her free hand traced his jaw, leaving tingling sensations in its wake. But then again, nothing about you is what I expected either. The sun was setting now, casting long shadows across the pool, while Zara's bioluminescence grew stronger in the gathering dusk. The water around them seemed to pulse with energy, and Michael found it increasingly difficult to remember why this had seemed like a bad idea. You're breaking down all my carefully constructed barriers, he murmured, finding his hands drawn to her waist almost of their own accord. Good, Zara whispered, her face inches from his. That's exactly what I intended. The air between them crackled with tension, filled with the sweet scent of her biological response to the water and the electric energy of their proximity. As the last rays of sunlight faded, the pool became a galaxy of bioluminescent swirls with them at its center. You have no idea what you're getting into, Zara breathed, her gold eyes searching his face. Michael found himself smiling. For once, he said, pulling her closer. I don't care. The moment their bodies drew closer, Michael felt a surge of energy pass between them. Zara's skin pulsed with increasingly intense patterns of light, turning the pool into a swirling cosmos of bioluminescence. Her rose-colored hair tendrils began to weave through the water with purpose, creating intricate designs that seemed to dance around them both. Michael, Zara's voice had taken on a new quality, deeper, more resonant, almost musical. There's something I should tell you about water and my species. Her golden eyes had darkened to a rich amber, and the patterns across her skin began to synchronize with her heartbeat. Visible, rapid, intense. The sweet scent in the air grew stronger, making Michael's head swim. What's happening to you? He asked, noticing how his own pulse quickened in response to her proximity. Zara laughed, the sound rippling through the water like liquid music. Remember how I said water could trigger certain biological responses? Her fingers traced patterns on his chest, leaving trails of tingling sensation even through his soaked shirt. This is what they meant to warn me about. Water, it initiates our mating cycle. Michael's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You knew this would happen? I suspected, she admitted, her skin flaring with new patterns that seemed to reach out toward him. But I didn't know it would feel like this. So intense. So. She pressed closer, her body radiating heat that contrasted with the cool water. Overwhelming. We should get you out of the water, Michael said, trying to maintain his rational thinking despite the intoxicating effect of her pheromones. Should we? Zara's voice carried a challenging tone. Her hand slid up to cup his face, sending shivers down his spine. Is that what you really want, Michael? To stop this? The responsible part of his brain fought to maintain control. You're not thinking clearly. The water has removed all my inhibitions, she finished, her thumb tracing his lower lip. But it hasn't changed what I already felt. I've been drawn to you since the moment I arrived. So stable, so controlled. Her eyes locked with his. So perfectly human. A splash echoed through the darkening yard as Zara pressed Michael against the pool's edge, her luminescent skin casting otherworldly patterns across the water's surface. Her laugh, now rich and wild, carried through the evening air. Shh, Michael whispered, though his hands betrayed him by pulling her closer. The neighbors. Let them hear, Zara purred, her golden eyes blazing. On my world, mating season is celebrated, not hidden. As if to prove her point, she let out another musical laugh that seemed to make the very air vibrate. A light flicked on in the house next door. Michael caught a glimpse of Mrs. Henderson's concerned face in her window. Zara, please, he managed, though his resolve weakened with every pattern that pulsed across her violet skin. We need to go inside. Michael? Mrs. Henderson's voice carried over the fence. Is everything all right over there? Zara nuzzled his neck, sending electric sensations through his body. Tell her everything's perfect, she whispered against his skin. Fine, Mrs. Henderson, Michael called out, his voice cracking as Zara's hair tendrils wrapped around his arms. Just entertaining a guest. At this hour? In the pool? The elderly neighbor's voice carried equal parts concern and disapproval. More lights began turning on in nearby houses. The combination of Zara's bioluminescence and her increasingly vocal enthusiasm had turned their private moment into neighborhood theater. Inside, Michael insisted, finding the last shreds of his self-control. Now, Zara's eyes sparkled with mischief. Make me. In one fluid motion, Michael lifted her from the pool, earning a delighted squeal that probably woke up half the street. Water cascaded off them both as he carried her toward the house, her skin painting patterns of light across his chest. Mr. Preston, Mrs. Henderson called out again. Should I call someone? Everything's fine, he shouted back, fumbling with the patio door, while Zara traced the shell of his ear with one finger, making coherent thought nearly impossible. Good night. They stumbled through the door just as several more neighbors emerged onto their back porches, drawn by the commotion. Inside, Zara's bioluminescence transformed the living room into an underwater fantasy, her light show uncontained by the pool's boundaries. You're going to be the talk of the neighborhood, she said, not sounding remotely sorry as water pooled beneath them on the hardwood floor. I'm supposed to be providing you with a normal cultural exchange experience, Michael groaned, though he couldn't help but smile at her unrestrained joy. Zara wrapped her arms around his neck, her body temperature now noticeably higher than human normal. Oh, we're definitely exchanging something cultural. Her eyes locked with his, suddenly serious despite her playful tone. You feel it too, don't you? This isn't just biology. This is, chemistry, Michael finished, finally allowing himself to admit what he'd been feeling since she first arrived. Definitely chemistry. Through the windows, they could hear the murmur of concerned neighbors gathering to discuss the strange lights and sounds from the Preston house. But as Zara's luminescent patterns synchronized with his heartbeat, Michael found he didn't care about his reputation, the protocols, or anything else beyond this moment. Your neighbors think you're harboring a dangerous alien, Zara teased, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest that left trails of light in their wake. Michael caught her hand, pressing it over his heart. Maybe I am. Her responding smile was both predatory and tender. You have no idea. Back inside the house, away from prying neighbors, Michael found his remaining self-control crumbling as Zara's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in sync with his racing heart. Her skin radiated an intoxicating warmth, and the sweet scent of her pheromones filled the air between them. "Your heart is racing," Zara whispered, placing her palm against his chest. Where her skin touched his wet shirt, patterns of light bloomed and spread. "Are you afraid?" "Not afraid," Michael managed, his voice rough. "Just overwhelmed." His hands found her waist, pulling her closer despite his better judgment. "You're incredible." Zara's golden eyes darkened as she pressed against him. "Then stop holding back," she breathed. "I can feel how much you want this." The last threads of his restraint snapped. Michael captured her lips with his, and the world exploded into light. Her skin flared brilliantly at the contact, filling the room with swirling patterns of bioluminescence. Her hair tendrils wound around his neck and shoulders, drawing him deeper into the kiss. Zara made a sound somewhere between a purr and a melody, her body temperature rising further. Where their skin touched, Michael felt electric sensations coursing through him. Her lips were impossibly soft, tasting of something wild and alien and addictive. "Finally," she gasped when they broke apart for air. "I was beginning to think humans were immune to desire." "Not immune," Michael said, trailing kisses down her neck and watching in fascination as patterns of light followed his touch. "Just cautious." "Caution is overrated," Zara said, her hands exploring his chest, "especially when chemistry like this is involved." Their second kiss was even more intense than the first. Michael could feel the last of his professional detachment melting away as Zara's otherworldly warmth enveloped him. This was more than just attraction or biological responses. There was a genuine connection forming between them that transcended species. Their kisses grew more passionate as the night deepened around them. Zara's bioluminescence transformed the room into a private galaxy, her skin painting swirling constellations across the walls. Every touch between them sparked new patterns of light. "I've never felt anything like this," Michael murmured against her neck. "It's like touching starlight." Zara's laugh was musical and breathless. "On my world, we believe that true connections resonate at the molecular level." Her golden eyes met his, full of emotion. "This isn't just physical attraction, Michael. Our energies are aligning." As if to prove her point, the patterns across her skin began to pulse in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. The air around them grew thick with sweet-scented pheromones that made Michael's head swim with desire. "What are you doing to me?" he whispered, cradling her face. "The same thing you're doing to me," she replied, leaning into his touch, breaking down every wall, every barrier. Her skin flared brighter. "When my people choose a mate, it's not just about biology. It's about finding someone whose soul speaks to yours." Michael pulled her closer, understanding dawning. "This isn't just a cultural exchange anymore, is it?" "It never was," Zara said, her voice carrying that hypnotic musical quality. "From the moment I saw you, I knew you were different. Special." She traced his jawline with glowing fingertips. "The water just gave me the courage to show you." Their next kiss deepened into something profound, something that transcended their different species and worlds. As the night progressed, their connection grew stronger, each touch and whispered word building something beautiful and unexpected between them. Later, as moonlight filtered through the windows to mingle with Zara's fading bioluminescence, they lay entwined, their heartbeats synchronized. The air still hummed with the energy of their connection, but now it felt less like wild passion and more like coming home. "I should have told you earlier about the water's effects," Zara murmured, tracing patterns on his chest that still left faint trails of light. "Would it have changed anything?" Michael asked, running his fingers through her rose-colored hair tendrils, which curled contentedly around his hand. She smiled, her golden eyes soft in the darkness. "Number, but perhaps we would have found our way here sooner." Sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Michael stood at the counter, preparing coffee with an unconscious smile on his face. Behind him, Zara sat perched on a bar stool, wrapped in one of his oversized shirts, her violet skin still occasionally flickering with afterglows of bioluminescence. "So," Michael said, throwing a playful glance over his shoulder, "about that cultural exchange program." Zara's musical laugh filled the kitchen. "Oh? Did last night not count as cultural exchange?" "I think we might have skipped a few chapters in the official handbook." He placed a steaming mug of coffee in front of her. Here's something else from Earth culture you should experience. Coffee. Her golden eyes widened as she leaned over the mug, her rose-colored hair, tendrils reaching toward the steam with curiosity. It smells intense, like concentrated energy. That's one way to put it, Michael chuckled, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Careful, it's hot. Zara took a tentative sip, and her entire body lit up with surprise, patterns of light racing across her skin. By the stars, she stared at the mug in wonder. It's like drinking a solar flare. How do humans handle this much stimulation first thing in the morning? Some of us can't function without it, Michael said, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. Though I'm feeling pretty energized this morning anyway. I wonder why, Zara teased, turning to capture his lips with hers. Her skin pulsed with soft light where they touched. The moment was interrupted by the sharp pop of the toaster. Zara leaped up with a startled yelp, her hair tendrils bristling like startled cat's fur. Intruder alert! Some kind of projectile weapon! Michael couldn't help laughing as he caught her around the waist. It's just toast, sweetheart. Bread for breakfast. Toast? Launches itself? She stared at the toaster suspiciously, her skin still flickering with alarm patterns. Here, let me show you. He guided her to the toaster, keeping his arms around her waist. It's just heated bread. See? He picked up a piece and offered it to her. Zara's tension melted into curiosity. Earth technology is so charmingly primitive, she said, accepting the toast. But I suppose it has its advantages. Oh? Like what? She turned in his arms, her golden eyes soft with affection. Like giving me an excuse to stay close to my protective human? Her free hand traced the line of his jaw. I think I'm falling in love with your world and its inhabitants. Well, one inhabitant in particular? Michael's heart swelled. I think that inhabitant is already hopelessly in love with you. Good, Zara whispered, rising on her toes to kiss him. The forgotten coffee mug on the counter steamed between them as morning sunlight painted patterns across their embracing forms. Because after last night, you're stuck with me. Lyrian's mate for life, you know? Is that supposed to scare me? Michael asked, pulling her closer. Her answering smile was radiant. Not if I'm doing this right. Their laughter mingled as they shared another kiss, the morning light catching the subtle luminescent patterns still dancing across Zara's skin. A visible reminder of their otherworldly connection that had become something beautifully, perfectly human. As the morning sunlight filled the kitchen, Zara's expression shifted to something more serious yet radiant. Her golden eyes sparkled with an inner light as she took Michael's hand in hers. There's something else about my species you should know, she said softly, her skin pulsing with gentle waves of light. We can sense biological changes almost immediately. Michael's brow furrowed with curiosity. What kind of changes? Instead of answering, Zara guided his hand to rest against her abdomen. Her skin was warm beneath his touch, rippling with delicate patterns of bioluminescence that seemed to flow toward his fingers. Remember how I said last night was about more than just passion? She whispered, her voice carrying that musical quality that made his heart race. Michael, you're going to be a father. The coffee mug slipped from his other hand, clattering into the sink. What? Our species are remarkably compatible, Zara explained, keeping his hand pressed against her stomach. And when we find our true mate, her skin flared with joy. Life finds a way. Michael stared at her, his mind racing through 1,000 thoughts at once. Interspecies, pregnancy, cultural implications, the exchange program protocols. But as he looked into Zara's golden eyes, filled with love and hope, none of those concerns seemed to matter. A smile spread across his face as wonder replaced shock. We're having a baby? Zara's answering laugh was pure joy, her entire body lighting up like a supernova. A perfect blend of our worlds, first of its kind. The program administrators are going to have a fit, Michael chuckled, pulling her close. Let them, Zara said, wrapping her arms around his neck. Some things are bigger than cultural exchange programs, like love, like family. Speaking of family, Michael said, suddenly thoughtful, how do we even begin to plan for this? I mean, will the baby need special environmental controls? Will they have your bioluminescence? My eyes? Should we? Zara silenced him with a kiss that left patterns of light dancing across both their skins. "We'll figure it out together," she promised when they parted. "My people have extensive genetic knowledge, and Earth has incredible adaptive technology. Between the two worlds, we'll make it work." "Our baby is going to be extraordinary," Michael said, his hand still resting protectively over her abdomen. "Just like their father," Zara whispered, then grinned mischievously. "Though hopefully they inherit my natural grace around water." They laughed together, the morning sun catching the subtle glow of Zara's skin as she nestled into Michael's embrace. In that moment, the vast differences between their worlds seemed to shrink, overshadowed by the miracle of their connection in the new life they'd created. "I love you," Michael said softly, realizing he meant it with every fiber of his being. "Both of you." Zara's response was to kiss him again, her hair tendrils wrapping around them both as her skin painted the kitchen with patterns of pure happiness. This wasn't just cultural exchange anymore. It was the beginning of something entirely new in the universe, a bridge between worlds, built on love and sealed with the promise of new life. The call from the Exchange Program Administration came just before noon. Michael's tablet lit up with an urgent notification, displaying the stern face of Director Chen of the Interstellar Relations Department. "Mr. Preston," her voice was clipped, professional, "we've detected some unusual biological readings from your residence. Care to explain?" Zara, still glowing with contentment, wrapped her arms around Michael from behind as he faced the screen. "I can explain, Director," she said, her musical voice carrying a note of defiance. "I've chosen my mate." Director Chen's expression tightened. "Ms. Kathax, you are well aware of Protocol 7.3 regarding intimate relations between exchange participants. This is a serious breach." "With all due respect, Director," Michael interjected, feeling Zara's grip tighten supportively. "Some things transcend protocols." "Transcend protocols?" A new voice joined the call, a tall, silvery-skinned Lyrian official. "Do you realize what you've done? This is the first documented case of human Lyrian conception in history." Zara's skin pulsed with proud patterns. "Exactly, Council Member Vex. We've made history." "This isn't some scientific breakthrough to celebrate," Director Chen snapped. "This is a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. The medical implications alone." "Are fascinating," interrupted another voice. Dr. Sarah Martinez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, pushed her way into view. "Director, this could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for. Proof of genuine genetic compatibility between our species." The screen split into multiple panels as more officials joined the call, human and Lyrian alike. The kitchen filled with overlapping voices. "The protocols exist for a reason. This could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies genetics." "What about the child's citizenship status? The public relations implications alone?" Zara's laugh cut through the chaos, her bioluminescence brightening. "Listen to yourselves. You're all so caught up in politics and protocols that you're missing what's really happening here. This isn't just about biology or diplomacy. It's about love." Michael squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. "We're not asking for permission," he added firmly. "We're informing you of our decision. This child will be born into two worlds, and will be stronger for it." A moment of stunned silence followed. Dr. Martinez was the first to smile. "Well, as the Earth's primary xenobiological authority, I'm officially volunteering to oversee this pregnancy. For science, of course. And as Lyrian cultural attaché," Council Member Vex added slowly, "I suppose I must ensure our traditions are properly observed, including the sacred bond ceremony that traditionally follows such a union." Director Chen looked like she'd swallowed something sour. "This sets a dangerous precedent." "No," Zara said softly, her golden eyes shining. "It sets a hopeful one." As the officials continued debating, Michael turned to Zara, tuning out the chaos on the screen. "Sacred bond ceremony?" Her skin flickered with amusement. "Surprised there are more protocols for us to break?" "Technically," he grinned, "we can't break them if we didn't know about them in the first place." Their laughter drew confused stares from the officials still arguing on screen, but neither of them cared. They had already jumped into the deep end, literally and figuratively, and found something more precious than any protocol could contain. The morning news vans arrived before breakfast was even finished. Mrs. Henderson, who had witnessed the light show from the previous night, had apparently called not just the local news station, but every major network she could find. Interstellar romance. Local man and alien exchange student expecting first human Lyrian child, scrolled across the bottom of every news channel. Michael peeked through the curtains at the growing media circus on his front lawn. So much for keeping this quiet. Zara, who was fascinated by the Earth breakfast cereal she discovered, looked up with amusement. Her violet skin pulsed with entertained patterns. On my world, this would be celebrated with a festival lasting several lunar cycles. Preston residents. This is Channel 7 News, boomed a voice through a megaphone. Any comment on the rumors of an interspecies pregnancy? Mrs. Henderson stood in her yard, holding court with a group of reporters. And then the whole pool lit up like the northern lights. I knew right then something special was happening. That woman has been watching my house every night for 20 years, Michael groaned. I should have known she'd be the one to break the story. Zara wrapped her arms around him from behind, her rose-colored hair tendrils curling contentedly. Are you embarrassed by me? She teased. Never. He turned to kiss her, making her skin flare with happiness. I just wasn't prepared to be today's top story. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. Michael James Preston. Since when do I have to learn about my future grandchild from Good Morning America? Oh, look, Zara peered over his shoulder. Your mother uses a lot of exclamation points. More neighbors were gathering now, some holding welcome signs, others looking concerned. The Johnson kids next door had set up a lemonade stand for the reporters, capitalizing on the situation. A teenage girl broke through the media crowd and pressed her face against the window, her eyes widening when she spotted Zara. Oh my God, she really is purple, and she glows. This is so going on my TikTok. Alien Love and Cosmic Baby are trending, Michael noted, checking his phone. We've gone viral. Zara's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. Should we give them something to really talk about? Before Michael could respond, she pulled him into a kiss right in front of the window. Her bioluminescence flared brilliantly, drawing gasps and camera flashes from outside. Breaking news, first footage of the interstellar couple. The headlines updated immediately. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Michael asked, unable to keep from smiling at her mischievous expression. Of course, she said, her golden eyes sparkling. Humans are so wonderfully excitable. Besides, she placed his hand over her stomach, they should be excited. This is history in the making. Mrs. Henderson's voice carried over the crowd. I always said that Michael needed someone special, though I didn't expect quite this special. Alien Baby exclusive, inside the love story that changed two worlds, blazed across Times Square's massive screens. Social media exploded with theories, fan art, and endless speculation about what the first human Lyrian child would look like. Look at this one, Zara giggled, showing Michael her tablet. Someone had created digital art of a baby with violet skin, human eyes, and glowing hair tendrils. They're not entirely wrong. Michael's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Talk shows, documentary crews, and even Hollywood producers were desperate for their story. His inbox was flooded with interview requests and book deal offers. Ellen wants us on her show, he said, scrolling through emails. And apparently Netflix is already planning a series? Zara lounged on their couch, her skin creating gentle light patterns in response to her amusement. Your species moves incredibly fast with media. On Lyria, we'd spend at least a cycle contemplating the proper way to share such news. A new wave of excitement erupted outside as Zara's parents' diplomatic shuttle landed in their driveway, having rushed from Lyria after hearing the news. The craft's sleek, organic design drew even more cameras and curious onlookers. Ready to meet your in-laws? Zara asked, her golden eyes twinkling with mischief. Are they going to be okay with all this? Michael gestured vaguely at the media circus outside. They're diplomats, love. They're used to attention. She stood, her rose-colored hair tendrils swaying gracefully. Though they might be surprised to learn they're going to be grandparents via a morning news show. The front door chimed with a soft musical note, Lyrian technology recognizing Zara's parents. Michael took a deep breath as Zara went to greet them. Her father, tall and regal with deep blue skin, ducked through the doorway. Her mother, whose violet coloring Zara had inherited, followed with more grace. Both of their skins pulsed with complex patterns that Michael was learning to recognize as emotional expressions. "Daughter," her mother said in their musical language, then switched to English. "You certainly know how to make an announcement." "Well," Zara grinned, taking Michael's hand, "humans have this saying about going big or going home." Zara's father, Ambassador Cathax, studied Michael with penetrating golden eyes that seemed to glow more intensely than Zara's. "So, you're the human who captured my daughter's heart and created quite the diplomatic situation." "Father," Zara's skin flashed with warning patterns, "be nice." Her mother moved through the room with fluid grace, her own violet skin creating subtle ripples of light that seemed soothing. "What your father means to say is that we're surprised, though perhaps we shouldn't be. You've always had a talent for the unexpected, daughter." Outside, cameras flashed as reporters noticed the new arrivals. The ambassador's shuttle had caused quite a stir, its organic design unlike anything Earth had seen before. "I love your daughter," Michael said firmly, meeting the ambassador's gaze, "and I'll do whatever it takes to make this work." The ambassador's stern expression softened slightly, his skin patterns shifting. "Good answer. Though you realize this means you'll need to learn our customs, starting with the sacred bond ceremony, which," Zara's mother added with a knowing smile, "traditionally involves both families." Michael's phone buzzed, another text from his mother. "We're at the airport. Don't you dare have any alien ceremonies without us." Speaking of both families, Michael showed Zara the text. "It looks like mine is on their way too." Zara's skin brightened with joy. "Perfect. Now we can plan the ceremony properly. Though," she glanced out the window at the media circus, "we might need a bigger venue than we planned." "The ceremony is typically held under the triple moons of Lyria," her father said, his diplomatic tone returning. "However, given the circumstances—" "We could do it here," Zara's mother suggested, her hair tendrils moving thoughtfully. "It would be symbolic, uniting our customs on the planet where this unique love story began." The ambassador sighed, but his skin patterns showed more amusement than annoyance. "I suppose I'll need to make some calls. The logistics of bringing a Lyrian ceremonial delegation to Earth, and I thought getting a normal wedding permit was complicated," Michael muttered, making Zara laugh. Her musical laughter caught the attention of the reporters outside, and another round of camera flashes lit up the windows. "Well," Zara's mother said, watching the media frenzy with fascination, "at least we won't have to worry about sending announcements. I believe your entire planet already knows." The arrival of Michael's parents at their media-surrounded house created quite a scene. Nancy Preston, a petite woman with Michael's warm eyes, practically bulldozed her way through the reporter crowd, dragging her bemused husband James behind her. "Michael James Preston!" she called out the moment she entered. "How dare you not—" Her words cut off abruptly as she came face to face with Zara, whose violet skin was pulsing with nervous patterns of light. "Hello, Mrs. Preston," Zara said softly, her musical voice carrying through the sudden silence. "I'm Zara. Well, I suppose I'm the alien who fell in love with your son." Nancy stood frozen for a moment, taking in Zara's otherworldly beauty, the gentle glow of her skin, her floating rose-colored hair tendrils, those mesmerizing golden eyes. Then, to everyone's surprise, she burst into tears and rushed forward to hug her future daughter-in-law. "Oh, look at you! You're absolutely beautiful!" Nancy exclaimed, pulling back to examine Zara more closely. "Though we really need to discuss how I found out about my future grandchild from the Today Show." James Preston, still standing in the doorway with their luggage, shared a knowing look with Ambassador Cathax. "Wives," he said with a shrug. The ambassador's skin flickered with amusement. "Indeed, though in my case, she glows when she's angry." The two fathers found common ground quickly, bonding over diplomatic stories and shared experiences with strong-willed spouses. Meanwhile, Nancy and Zara's mother, Lady Cathax, immediately began discussing pregnancy customs from both worlds. "So the baby will glow?" Nancy asked, fascinated. "Like a little nightlight?" "Most likely," Lady Cathax explained, her own skin creating gentle patterns. Though with the unique genetic combination, we might see some interesting variations. As long as they have Michael's nose, Nancy declared. He had the most perfect baby nose. Mom, Michael protested, but Zara just laughed, her hair tendrils curling with delight. I hope they have your laugh, James told Zara. It's like wind chimes. The families merged with surprising ease, their differences becoming points of fascination rather than division. Nancy insisted on showing Zara old photos of Michael, while Lady Cathax projected holographic memories of young Zara from a delicate crystal device. The ceremony planning took on epic proportions as both families worked to blend their traditions. The Lyrian's sacred bond ceremony traditionally required 3 moons and a specific alignment of stars, but Earth's single moon in different constellations meant some creative adaptations were needed. They chose a vast open field outside the city, away from the worst of the media attention. The Lyrian delegation arrived in their organic ships, creating a stunning backdrop against the sunset sky. Floating lights were arranged to simulate the triple moons of Lyria, while Earth's own moon hung full and bright above. Zara wore a flowing dress that seemed to be made of living light, changing colors with her emotions. Her violet skin glowed more brilliantly than ever, and her rose-colored hair tendrils were interwoven with tiny crystals that caught and reflected the starlight. Michael, dressed in a suit that had been modified with Lyrian, light-responsive fabric, found himself breathless at the sight of her. The material of his suit rippled with patterns that matched Zara's skin, marking them as a bonded pair even before the ceremony began. The ceremony itself was a beautiful blend of both worlds. Traditional Earth wedding vows were spoken alongside Lyrian light songs, complex patterns of bioluminescence that told the story of their love. When they kissed, Zara's joy was so intense that her light show rivaled the ceremonial displays. Ambassador Cathax performed the diplomatic portions, officially recording the first sanctioned human-Lyrian union. Nancy cried happy tears throughout, while James and Lady Cathax exchanged knowing looks as their children created something new and beautiful between their worlds. The media coverage was surprisingly respectful, though headlines like "Love Lights Up the Night," "First Human Lyrian Wedding Visible from Space" might have been slightly exaggerated. Social media exploded with images of the ceremony, particularly the moment when all the Lyrian guests lit up in harmony to bless the union. The reception was held in a specially designed venue that could accommodate both human and Lyrian guests. The dance floor was equipped with bioluminescent crystals that responded to movement, creating a stunning light show as the two species mingled and celebrated. Nancy and Lady Cathax had bonded completely by this point, already planning the baby shower and debating names from both cultures. James and Ambassador Cathax were deep in discussion about establishing a permanent diplomatic residence on Earth for the growing family. We could convert the pool house, James suggested, add some Lyrian environmental controls. Excellent idea, the ambassador agreed, his skin patterns showing approval. Though perhaps we should wait to see how many grandchildren we end up with. Zara, overhearing this, turned to Michael with a mischievous glow. Should we tell them we're having twins? Michael nearly choked on his champagne. We're what? Her musical laugh drew every eye in the room, and her joy made the entire reception hall pulse with light. Surprise? 9 months after their magical wedding, the world's first human Lyrian babies made their debut in a specially designed medical facility that combined Earth technology with Lyrian healing crystals. The twins arrived during a rare astronomical event, a lunar eclipse that made Zara's bioluminescence particularly intense. Luna and Leo Preston entered the world with a literal flash of light. Their cries were musical, like tiny wind chimes, and their skin glowed with soft patterns that pulsed in sync with their heartbeats. Luna inherited her mother's violet skin, but her father's dark hair, though hers moved like Zara's tendrils. Leo had a unique marble-like swirl of human and Lyrian coloring, creating beautiful patterns across his skin, and his rose-colored hair tendrils were shorter than typical Lyrian ones. Both babies had golden eyes that sometimes shifted to their father's brown, depending on their emotions. Their bioluminescence was more controlled than pure Lyrians, allowing them to dim it at will, a trait that would prove useful as they grew older. They're perfect, Michael whispered, holding Luna while Zara cradled Leo. Both babies were creating synchronized light patterns, already showing the strong twin bond typical in Lyrian siblings. Nancy and Lady Cathax hadn't left the hospital since Zara went into labor, both grandmothers absolutely smitten with the twins. They'd already filled multiple albums with photos and holographic memories. "Look how they glow when they're happy," Nancy cooed, watching Luna's skin brighten as she smiled. "Just like their mother," Michael said, sharing a loving look with Zara. The media fascination with the Preston family had evolved into something more respectful over the months. The initial sensationalism gave way to genuine interest in their groundbreaking family. They became symbols of hope, living proof that love truly could transcend any boundary, even interstellar ones. As the twins grew, they showed unique combinations of their heritage. They could breathe in both Earth and Lyrian atmospheres, their hybrid biology adapting easily. Their bioluminescence proved to be tied to their emotions, just like their mothers, but they could control it better than pure Lyrians. Luna developed a talent for light speaking, the complex Lyrian art of communication through bioluminescent patterns. Leo, meanwhile, showed an unprecedented ability to manipulate water in ways that even surprised his Lyrian relatives, creating beautiful light shows when swimming. Their suburban home became a blend of both worlds. The pool was modified with Lyrian crystals, making it safe for the children to experiment with their developing abilities. The garden featured both earth flowers and luminescent Lyrian plants, creating stunning displays at night. Michael and Zara proved to be natural parents, their love growing stronger as they navigated the challenges of raising the universe's first human Lyrian children. They established new traditions that honored both their heritages, celebrating Earth holidays with Lyrian light ceremonies, teaching their children both English and the musical Lyrian language. 5 years after the twins' birth, the Preston family had become beloved figures in both human and Lyrian society. Their story inspired changes in interstellar relations, leading to more open cultural exchange programs and several other human-Lyrian relationships. The neighborhood that had once been scandalized by Zara's arrival now proudly claimed to be the first interstellar suburb. Mrs. Henderson, still watching from her window, had become the twins' honorary Earth grandmother, always ready with cookies and stories about how their parents' love story began. Zara continued her cultural exchange work, now focusing on helping other interspecies couples navigate their relationships. Michael's home office became an informal counseling center where they shared their experiences and offered support to others following in their footsteps. The pool where their love story began remained a special place for the family. On warm evenings, they would swim together, their combined bioluminescence creating spectacular light shows that could be seen from space, a beacon of hope for others who dared to love across the stars. 10 years later, on the 10th anniversary of that fateful day when Zara first stepped into the pool, the Preston family hosted a gathering that brought together humans and Lyrians from across the galaxy. The twins, now 10 years old, entertained guests with elaborate waterlight performances, their unique abilities a testament to the beautiful possibilities of their mixed heritage. "Did you ever imagine this?" Michael asked Zara as they watched their children play. "That night when you decided to break all the protocols?" Zara's skin pulsed with loving patterns as she leaned against him. "I knew you were special from the moment I saw you, though I didn't expect to start an interstellar revolution." "Mom! Dad!" Luna called out, her violet skin glowing with excitement. "Watch what Leo and I figured out." The twins combined their abilities, creating a spectacular display where water and light danced together in ways neither species had seen before. Their performance drew amazed gasps from the gathered crowd. Ambassador Cathax, now retired but still diplomatic as ever, raised his glass in a toast. "To breaking protocols," he said with a knowing smile, his skin patterns matching his daughter's joy. "To love across the stars," Nancy added, wiping happy tears as she watched her grandchildren. As night fell and the stars came out, the Preston family's home glowed with warmth and light, a beacon of hope for dreamers across the galaxy. Their story had become legend, told in both Earth's history books and Lyria's light songs. How one cultural exchange program, one suburban pool, and two hearts brave enough to cross the stars had changed two worlds forever. The twins continued their water dance under the stars, their laughter musical like their mothers, their determination strong like their fathers. Above them, Earth's moon shone bright, while somewhere in the distance, Lyria's triple moons aligned, a cosmic blessing on a family that had proven that love truly knows no boundaries. And in the pool where it all began, the water still held traces of that first magical night, tiny crystals that glowed with memories of when an alien guest fell in love with her human host and changed the universe forever. "I love you," Michael whispered to his wife, their hands intertwined as they watched their miracle children play. Zara's answering smile lit up the night. "Across all the stars," she replied, her golden eyes shining with the same love that had first drawn them together. And so their story continued, writing new chapters in the endless book of cosmic love, proving that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with one simple splash. Dear listeners, in this tale of Michael and Zara, we've witnessed more than just a love story. We've seen the power of courage to transcend boundaries we once thought impossible. Their journey from a simple cultural exchange to a groundbreaking interstellar family reminds us that the greatest adventures often begin with one brave moment, one decision to step beyond our comfort zone. Like that first splash in a suburban pool, sometimes the smallest actions can create ripples that reach across galaxies. Michael and Zara's story teaches us that love doesn't recognize the barriers we create, whether they're protocols, biological differences, or light years of space. When hearts align, the universe finds a way. Perhaps you felt different, out of place, or afraid to take that first step towards something unprecedented. Remember that every great leap in human history started with someone willing to break conventional wisdom, to reach across divides, to dare to believe in possibilities others couldn't see. The Preston family's legacy isn't just about interspecies romance, it's about the courage to be first, the strength to stand firm when faced with opposition, and the power of love to transform not just two lives, but entire worlds. So the next time you find yourself hesitating at the edge of your own pool of possibilities, remember Michael and Zara. Remember that somewhere across the stars, someone else might be waiting for you to take that leap, to break those protocols, to prove that the heart knows no boundaries. After all, every great love story in history started with someone being brave enough to say yes to the unknown. Maybe it's time for you to write your own cosmic tale. Look up at the stars tonight. They're not just lights in the darkness. They're beacons of possibility, reminding us that in this vast universe, anything is possible if we're brave enough to reach for it. Who knows? Your own extraordinary story might be just one courageous moment away. Keep dreaming, keep daring, and most importantly, keep believing in the power of love to light up the darkest spaces between stars. May your own light shine as brightly as Luna and Leo's first smile, and may you find the courage to make your own splash in the cosmic pool of possibilities. Across all the stars, your storyteller.